Welcome. Have most people been closing the door or leaving it open for a while, or closing? We'll leave it open for a while. If we have too much hallway noise, then we'll rethink that. But let's leave it open at least for a little while here while people are coming in. I'm Kelly Pelzel. I'm a psychologist. I work at the Children's Hospital in Iowa City. And I'm here today with Jason Snell, who's a creative technologist. He works at NYU in New York. And together with Christina Farrell and Melissa Voss, who aren't here, we've been working on a project where we've been thinking about how to use technology that Jason's developed and software Jason's developed to work with students and integrate some social emotional learning into content areas at school. And so I'll just say a few little things here, and then we'll kind of get started with the more fun stuff. But we're going to talk today a little bit about how music can be created using neurofeedback data, and Jason's going to talk with you about that, but also demonstrate it as well. And then we're going to talk about how we integrated some social emotional content into, in this case, specifically some instrumental classwork, instrumental music classwork at middle school. And then we'll talk a little bit about what we learned doing this. This was last fall that we tried things out, and what we're kind of thinking about doing next. So there's Christina, and there's Melissa Voss, who was the band director at Party Middle School in Cedar Rapids. And we called our project that, back here, aren't I? Sorry about that.
It's when you turn towards the mic.
Okay.
That's what's happening.
I turned it down a little bit too. Can you still hear me? Okay. So yeah, we were working in Ms. Voss's classroom at Harding Middle School in Cedar Rapids, trying out what we put together over the summer. I'll talk a little bit more about that. Let me just say a little bit about Christina. So Christina is a teaching artist. Are you guys familiar with that? Okay, I wasn't either. But Christina's been doing some really neat work actually all over the world, where typically she has relationships with school districts and educators and goes in and either works directly with students, but oftentimes with the educators on ways to incorporate art into their curriculum. And I got excited during the pandemic seeing some stuff she was doing with young kids, and I thought, okay, if I get across a pot of money, I'm going to try to hire Christina to do something with me. And so I came across a pot of money and called up Christina, and she was like, that's really cool, I have this idea that we could do with Jason Snell using his technology, and I was kind of familiar with what Jason had done. He's from Iowa and frequently comes back, and I was thinking young kids in my head, but I was like, you know what, we're going to go for it. And then we pitched it to Cedar Rapids schools and eventually got connected with Harding and with Melissa Voss there, and it was a really, really good fit for what we wanted to do. Okay, so I'll talk a little bit more about that. Oh, the other thing I was going to say, I think when I was fiddling with the mic, is that we called the project the ME Residency. And there's many things we were kind of thinking about with what that might stand for, the ME Residency. But the M might be mind, meditation, music, MIDI, if you're familiar with that. And the E is EEG, exploration, electricity, enhancement. So we called the ME Residency, and we called the individual work that the students did, we called the spot they did at the ME Station. And so we'll show that here in a little bit. Okay, I don't know if we have time to go through everyone, but I'm wondering if anyone wants to kind of talk about what you're doing, or kind of why you chose to come to this presentation, kind of what you're doing either with music or with neurofeedback, or social emotional learning. Yeah.
In my class, we currently do a curriculum called Fly 5. I don't know if you guys are familiar, but it's all SEL learning. So we do that every day. Or no, we do it Monday, Wednesday, Friday after morning meeting. It just teaches them lessons, cooperation, assertiveness, empathy. It goes through a lot. But I chose this class because I love music and being artistic, so we can incorporate more of that.
Yes.
That's great.
Yes. Cool. Yes. Yeah.
Well, I just on a side note, because we work in therapy classrooms, and with our needs that we have, music tends to calm. So that's a big way to
I'm the mindfulness and yoga teacher at Muscatine, and they've let me be really creative in creating kind of a curriculum. So I'm at all 6 elementary schools every week, and I work with tier 3 kids, tier 2, and then tier 1 whole group lessons. And I do a lot of music with my students, playing bells, sounds, bowls, and talking about vibrations. And really, I do a lot less yoga than I do more mindfulness, but it's just kind of meeting the student where they are and what they'll allow me to really do with them. But this is right up my alley.
Yeah, that sounds familiar. And well, I'll just say now. So like that's what really attracted me to this project too, is this idea of thinking about like, okay, if we can get the student engaged,
Right.
what will they try out? That maybe, in the clinical office when they're seeing me for psychotherapy, sometimes middle schoolers balk at like trying breathing exercises or tension release and things like that. Where if we can incorporate it more into things they're really interested in, and neat technology, what can they do with it, and then can they see those benefits?
And the brain science behind it for some of those like naysayers with
Exactly.
just mindfulness. But.
Exactly, right, and the science behind it, yeah. Okay, I'm gonna move on so we have enough time for everything. But here's generally what we're gonna do is, Jason is going to demonstrate for us his technology, and then we're gonna kind of learn about it and how he developed it stuff through you guys asking questions and maybe talking a little bit about what you observed as he was doing things. And then he'll perform a second time using a different sound kit. And what we have the students do, I'm kind of copying what we did with the students, is we had the students do some drawing for us during the second performance when Jason came into the middle school. Just as kind of another way of thinking about what they were experiencing. And then we'll go into kind of the project itself, our results, and what we're thinking next. So as Jason's performing, think about, or you can even jot down ideas about like what you're seeing and hearing, and questions you have as he's demonstrating.
Can you hear me okay? In the back? Great. I'm Jason Snell. I'm a creative technologist. That's a fancy way of saying I combine art and technology. And for the last 25 years, I have produced electronic music, programmed computers, and have meditated. And those 3 paths merged with this project. So I've been working on this for about 5 years. I use an EEG headset, and so this is one that is very fast and easy to prototype with, so that's the first one I used. It's more affordable than some of the more medical grade ones. Essentially it has EEG sensors on the forehead and then 2 by the ears, so it's 4 total. And that also has a heart rate sensor, which I use sometimes, and it also has a motion sensor in it. So with some of the versions of the software I've made, it can detect breath. And so for mindfulness and meditation, the sensor can detect the gentle movement of breath and give you your breath rate. For the middle schoolers, I'll show you, great. I create a prototype of as an iPad app, and The trickiest thing about this is getting on and getting a good fit. Once you have that, everything else is everything else for the user is easy. So you put on the headset and then you tighten it, kind of like old school headphones. It's like click, click, and it tightens. And I wanted to make the interface as simple as possible. It's like step 1, step 2, step 3. So it's connected. I'll start, and once I start, this was from a practice session that we were doing before, just to explain before it streams in, we start hearing music. These are the brain waves in terms of frequency, so these are the lowest frequencies. This area, delta, is usually highest when you're asleep, so it's body repair. It's when your brain is repairing, your body is repairing, and it's not dream, it's just knockout cold sleep. Theta is dreaming, alpha is meditation. This is an awake, alert state. And you can have different ranges of like awake and calm, awake and focused, awake and stressed out. And then gamma is the highest frequency, which can come up with periods of joy, having intuitive jumps, having insight over your life in general. So it's the highest frequency bandwidths. And our brain, as you'll see, is always doing all of them. And it's about where are the peaks at a given time. So if I got into deep meditation, this blue would become taller than the rest of them in general as it's moving. So this is electrical activity coming off my brain through my skull and scalp, being detected by the sensors on this headset. Any questions about the headset before I get started? We'll have time for questions afterwards too.
Where did you buy it?
The Muse headsets are commercially available, so you can get from the Muse headset, Amazon. A lot of times I get them from eBay. I grab used ones because they can be much cheaper. I think brand new from Muse, on Amazon is like $200, $250. I've gotten ones from eBay as cheap as $100, $110. And that's another reason I use this, because some other commercial ones are like $2,000 or $1,000. There's another hardware company that I've partnered with that is just ramping up, where it's EG headphones. And so it's much easier to put on because everyone knows how to put on headphones. And that will probably be around $300. And the nice thing about that is everything's combined in one headset, so it can connect to the device, and then you hear the music through that headset. With this, when the students were using it, we'll hear it through the speakers here, but when the students were using it with iPads, they just had earbuds plugged into the iPad audio out. All right. Plug it out. So this first set are gamut bells. So it's just like a pleasant mellow bell. And the pitch of the bells are playing based on peaks on the different brainwave sets. And then I'm not soundifying it, but visualize it. You get a little noise when I'm talking, the muscle movement on my forehead. But the bottom part is my heart rate, so that's my life heart rate. So sometimes I soundify that as a beat. You know, my background is in techno, so I can use that as a BPM. But you could also use it for a flowing sound. So heart rate is here, and the brain activity is up here. And the other thing with this interface is I can mute and unmute and isolate just specific brainwaves. So this is just my beta activity. And I turned up the sensitivity a little bit so it sonifies. I'll save kit 3 for the last performance. sounds, but I'm gonna jump over to Kit 2, which are electronic sounds. And so music is so based on experience and culture of what someone prefers or what is interesting to them. So it's important to be able to give options to the students to choose. Questions about what you just saw?
So the students had a choice on the music, that's something that they program before they actually start this?
Yeah, so they can choose whatever kit. So they would have X amount of minutes in the ME Station, so they're in there one at a time, so they could use it in private. And that they could choose whatever sound kits. These kits that I developed, I guess a year and a half ago now, were ones that were available on the iPad. And I'm currently working on a web beta to have more sophisticated sounds, more layers. And when I was finishing my grad degree at NYU, I learned machine learning to have more controllable states. This one is sonifying. Mostly the controllable part is overall stimulation and overall relaxation. And so the current build has much more nuance of am I stressed out? Am I focused? Is my mind clear? Am I meditating? Am I starting to dream? So there's many more states which are sonified. But for this pilot project, it worked just to have essentially two states, stimulation and calmness. You could get a sense of what is the level of activity of the music, what are the pitch of the notes that would change based on stimulation, and then as they would calm and clear down, there were times where it would peak a little bit for me. I'm presenting so more stimulated than if I were to sit and meditate. If I were to meditate, the music would get softer and quieter. Any other questions? Yeah.
So if we got kids starting listening super just agitated, would that affect the music that was being played until they get to a calmer state?
Yeah, particularly with the current system, it's a balance where how do I sonify stress without creating a musical neurofeedback loop which rewards the stress? Because the brain will continue to do the thing that's rewarded. If it's rewarded with a cool stress sound, the brain will, get into a stress feedback loop. And so the idea is letting them know that they're stressed visually or with sounds that are soothing. So one of the things I've been doing for stressful information, coming off the brain is converting that into ocean wave sounds. And so you can get a sense of the turbulence and activity when they first start, but the sound itself is soothing, kind of a white noise ocean sound. And then as they calm down, those waves die down and the musical elements come up as they move into either a focused state or a calmer state. And then as they descend, the sounds get more and more subconscious and dreamy as they descend into calmer and calmer states. That's a great question. Thank you. Any other questions, or what was the next step?
Well, I have a question.
Yeah,
so
please.
When the delta and theta and things are going kind of high there on that second kit, was it something specific that you were doing, or do you think it was just being up and presenting, or?
With this particular headset, and each headset has its own pros and cons or affordances. So with this particular headset, the low end picks up on muscular stress. And so holding stress in the forehead, blinking, jaw clenches will render down here. And for some people, they filter that out, particularly neuroscientists. But to me, in terms of sonifying biometrics, having tense muscles is a valid biometric. So if my muscles are tense and that shows up, that's important information I can feed back as a musical element. And then when the state isn't being detected as a muscular state, the theta and alpha, that low and here, is very indicative of, like I mentioned before, alpha is indicative of a meditative state when alpha is highest. And then if alpha is highest and theta is second highest, you can tell that someone's starting to dream. So when you start to have those balloons of ideas or visions or sounds which have nothing to do with today, and you start to dream, that's when theta moves up. Or if you get into a very, very deep meditation and start to dream but you're still awake.
Excuse me, I was intrigued by the YouTube video that you had linked to this class. And so I'm wondering, what were some takeaways that your students had from this, and how it would benefit them outside of ME Station?
Do you
Yeah,
want-
we're gonna talk about that in a little bit.
Okay.
Yep, we'll get to that.
And we have the video that we can show, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Unless everyone's seen it. But that's great, yeah. It's a great question.
You wanna do one more performance and have them draw for a little bit?
Sure.
Okay.
I'll do the third kid. And because it was orchestra and band classes, this third kid is strings, orchestra strings. So it's something that the orchestra students could relate to. So I was able to calm my brain a little bit, so it was a little more dramatic in the beginning, and then I was able to become a bit softer.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you. Let's get Kelly plugged back in. Let's see if that works.
Yeah, now look at the ugly part. So why isn't this showing, huh?
No? Is that you?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
Oh, yeah. Here we go. Okay, so, yeah, Jason came and presented to the students towards the end of the project, just like he did for you. It was a little bit longer in terms of his performance and things. We're moving things along today. But we had students write down observations and ask him questions as well to kind of get them thinking about all of this. And we've done one workshop session where we had started to introduce the idea of the brainwaves. So as you can see, lots of questions that they had. I wonder when I can try this. What is he going to see? What is he going to use this discovery for? Would this work on animals? All kinds of questions that they
That comes
have.
up a lot. They're like, can you put it on a dog?
And
The fur is an issue, so if you're willing to shave.
So you're saying
Yes.
those animals are the ones we would test?
Exactly.
Okay, cool.
Yes.
yes, Chihuahuas. That's
Chinese crested.
another targeted.
Yes.
Okay, and then we had them draw. when they were doing that, he was doing that third kit, and we got a variety of drawings. A lot of them did have kind of this like windy feel though to them. There's a couple, and then a couple that were a little bit more concrete as well.
I think that's me, but.
That's you. That's Christina next to you.
Wow.
I didn't know she was that much shorter than you.
Yeah, totally. She's not. And I don't recall going, shh, shh, shh.
Okay, so we were funded in late 2021, and we had the gift of time, which is rare. We had 18 months, I think, for the funding to get our project done. So we took the first 6 months or so just to plan and collaborate with the school and get it kind of how we wanted and what we thought would work well. And so that was really, really nice to be able to have those conversations early on and kind of get together with my ideas as a clinician, Jason's ideas in terms of the technology, Christina as a teaching artist, and put those things together. And we, really, like I said, wanted to think about how to practice these regulation techniques or strategies during engaging activities and engaging content. And we also, as we were looking at things, we looked at the Iowa standards for SEL, and we knew we were in that realm of more like self-awareness and self-management more than the more social pieces of the wheel. And so that's where we focused in terms of feeling identification and regulating states. And we decided to, in the lesson plans, really emphasize 3 strategies. We went with 4-4-8 breathing, and so I think it's about 6th grade band and orchestra students. You can probably think about why we went with 4-4-8 versus another pattern, right? So we were working with a lot of quarter notes, and we did tension and release as a strategy, and then visualization. We actually talked about some other strategies as well, but these are the ones we tried to emphasize because these were ones that would all work well at the ME Station while kids were relatively still. So there's many other regulation strategies out there, but some of them involve movement, and that wasn't going to be good for getting good feedback from the station. And really, this residency had the 2 components. So it had the workshops that Christina was doing in the classroom, in the band classroom, and then the ME Station that the students were going to individually. So I'm going to first talk about the workshops, and then we'll talk a little bit about their experiences at the station. So we started by kind of talking about basic brain science. So just a little bit on of anatomy. We got these cute, stress balls that we could use to show, occipital lobe, temporal lobe, frontal lobe, those things as we were talking about it. And that same day, we started to talk about electrical brainwaves and their connection to states. So the kinds of things Jason was talking about, or that are right here. We introduced that idea. And we had students reflect on techniques that they were currently using to change their brain state. So we'll look at the data on that in a little bit. Second workshop, they practiced the techniques. Specifically, they practiced breathing, and they practiced tension and release. And they started thinking about the relation between mood and experiences with music. And we started doing some composition with them. And we started with the concept of tension and release, so we were building that in relation to thinking about it as a strategy for regulating mood state, but we're also thinking about it in terms of when people compose music, how do they how do they express that in the music? And that's about the point where we realized, oh yeah, these are 6th grade students. So some of the things that Creative Stina was thinking in terms of their skill level, we had to adjust a little bit. So I remember this was the session where she was like, all right, so we'll go with concert B flat, and like she got deer in the headlight looks from about 75% of the band students. And I'm not a musician myself, but I know, like, you know, later on that's a fine thing to say. 6th graders, I guess not so much. So we did some consultation with the band director at that point, and thought about like what's a more appropriate way to go about some of this composition stuff, because more was coming. Okay, 3rd session, we practiced with visualization. We talked a lot about sound waves, and we started to think about kind of those two things together. So we had them visualize a event in which there had been some emotion, and then create a story about it just using like sound waves. And so there's one there where the story, let me see if he had, I don't know what his story is about, but you can see the pitches and the, yes, things are changing. And then the 4th session, we did do some stuff with movement as a technique to change brain state, but again, we didn't really incorporate that over to the stations because of the limitations of the technology. And we started to think about initial choices for the main composition that they did, which was composing what we call brainwave music. So we started to think about, in groups, which instruments would represent the different states based on their characteristics. 5th session was primarily devoted to composing that brainwave music using creative notation. And so you can see here from a couple of different band periods, because there were actually 2 band periods that we were in. And so, so they separated out by instrument, and once we kind of had each instrument assigned to a brainwave, then they were composing something that they felt represented that brainwave. And different kinds of ways of notating that. Last session was a little bit tricky because the fall concert was like the next day, and the teacher was out unexpectedly. She had a substitute, but the substitute was like stepping into like the day before the concert, and these people here doing this interesting project. And so basically Christina just kind of took over in terms of both making sure the brainwave music was ready to go for fall concert, but also working with them a little bit on the other stuff they were playing for fall concert, because she had been hearing this all fall and knew what direction the teacher was going. And we also spent a little time kind of reflecting on their experiences, though I think not nearly enough, because we had like a lot of worksheets and stuff that didn't get done that last session that unfortunately would have been good information for us, but that's just kind of how it went. Okay, so now I'm going to show that video. Did most people watch this or no? No? Okay, we'll go ahead and show it. It's just pretty short. It's kind of a summary of the project, and will kind of introduce us to the work that they did at the ME Station as well.
This is an arts integrated unit, which means that we blend arts learning with curricular learning. And this unit also has a very exciting social emotional component to it. We are learning about science and technology. So a big part of this unit is learning about the brain and the brain waves that we produce when we're having different feelings and experiences. And then how technology helps us interpret those through EEG technology, which is a headband that you wear. And also it's expressed through electronic music. When the kids are there using the ME Station and they have the EEG headband on, they're hearing music. So they're hearing sort of changes. So the alpha waves are sort of our calmer waves. They're going to hear calmer music. If they get excited or they feel a little more anxious, they're going to hear a little busier, maybe more dissonant music, right? So they can see what's going on. and then try some things to change it and see what happens.
It makes you realize what you feel, and like it can even like build up emotions even more. Like let's say you're feeling stressed, it might get rid of it, or it might make you feel it. Like no, like hey, I'm feeling stressed, and make you realize you need to calm down.
When students use the ME Station, they can hear the music change, and they can see the music change, and the combination of that, the students can feel the changes in their body. And so, after using the station, most students feel calm and relaxed, and then this transfers over to how students manage their emotions throughout the school day and after school's over.
Could they change the way their brain was working? Could they hear it in the music? If they did some deep breathing, or if they tried to solve some math problems, could they hear it in the music? So that they're aware of what's going on in their brain. So they've been doing that throughout the residency. And then in the classroom workshops, we've been building towards a composition where the band is going to actually write music themselves for what they think these different brain waves would sound like.
I think percussion should be flute should be alpha, and then percussion should be beta.
Each section of the band got together, so the flutes got together, the clarinets got together, the trombones got together, and they had to compose a short little phrase that represented a brainwave. Is that they will understand better how their body and their brain are connected. And when you start to feel a little anxious or a little angry or a little out of control, there are some things that you can do. You can pause, you can breathe, you can visualize, you can listen to calming music. There are a lot of things that you can do to help control and affect change in what's going on, that you're not out of control, you're not out of the driver's seat. There are things that we can do to affect change in our own brains and bodies.
So you can see there we literally had our ME station set up in a closet. It was a big closet, but it was like storage room, right? That they cleared out for us, and just had the iPad there that we left there for the duration of the fall semester, actually, all the way up until the holidays, because there were a few kids that wanted to keep working with it after the residency was effectively over. So the idea was that they would go and try this out, oftentimes during their individual lesson time, for a brief part of their lesson time, or sometimes if they had other spots in their day where they could go and try that out, they'd work that out with the band teacher. And our goal was up to 3 visits, everyone got at least 1 visit. A lot of people got 2, 3 was a little bit rare, right? We let them select which of the music kits of those 3 that Jason demonstrated, and then we also let them select what techniques they wanted to try out while they were there. And we had them reflect on their mood before and after the experience of trying out the headset. Any questions on that piece? Yeah.
How long did they listen to it when they were in there?
I think we were aiming for around 8 minutes. She was pretty flexible as a teacher, so she kind of worked with the students and how much they were interested in it or not, so there was no timer or anything, but she also wanted to make sure they were getting their individual lesson time in as well.
With some of the tests that I've done with adults, they can be 45 minutes or an hour, just because they have the luxury of more time.
And then we did have fall concert, and that was kind of the culmination. So they played their brainwave music for the audience before their normal 6th grade presentation music, and the other thing is that we had students demonstrate the ME Station, just like Jason demonstrated for you, although unfortunately we didn't have a big screen there, so, but people could then hear and kind of see what their students have been up to, their children have been up to. Okay, and we actually tried to get information on kind of what their takeaway was, their take-home messages in a variety of ways. This was one, as we had them do some thought bubbles. We also had them do like a Venn diagram. This was too much, but we tried to have them do a haiku poem. That was over the top. We wouldn't do that again. But I thought these bubbles were kind of fun. So the top one, he's talking about, I was mad and I did tension to release and it worked really well. When I'm mad, listening to music will help me calm down. And this one's more, breathing, brain, composing music. Breathing can help calm your brain and that changes your brain waves, right? So some of those take-home messages. Okay, I'm going to have now a little video from Christina talking about her experiences and her observations. We're rarely all in the same place, maybe never in the same place, now that I think about it. The concert, we were all together. Yes, the concert. And so she couldn't be here today because she's traveling.
Hello, I'm Christina Farrell, and I am the teaching artist who was able to work with the 6th grade students for the ME Station project. I specialize in arts integration, which is a form of teaching in which we use artful and creative processes to connect to other areas of learning. And the thing that was so exciting to me about the ME Station project was that there was really 3 areas of learning that were really deeply, richly connected, and there was a lot of authentic learning happening in all 3 categories. So the first category is music, of course. So we were working with band students, and we learned how we can make choices, creative choices around music to express our thoughts and ideas. Then there was science and technology, inspired by Jason's wonderful art making. The kids were so curious about the technology that was used to experience it themselves, how it's made, and the science around the brain and how brain waves, brain science can be expressed through technology. So that was really great. And then third, of course, in primary was our social emotional learning. So the students learned how their brain functioning impacts their mood and their bodies, their well-being, and they learned that they could exercise some control to change. And then of course use this technology to see how that's happening, what they can do to change their brain waves, and then hear it through music. So it was such a rich experience for the kids. And my job in the classroom was to make this really an interactive experience for the kids. So while there was some teaching on my end, just a little bit, just about brain science and naming the brain waves, most of the creativity really came from the students. So they were coming up with ideas and expressions musically around how they would musically express these different brain waves. And in the end, the band and orchestra students ended up composing pieces of music that expressed through rhythm, through tonality of instruments, through the timbre of the instruments, through pitch, through melody lines, how they would express all these different brain states. So in order to do that, they had to bring their personal experience of the brain states. They had to talk about times when they felt, that their brain was really busy working, and times when they feel very much at peace, and relate those and express those through music. So it was a very interactive experience, and it was a really fun learning journey, I think, for all of us involved. And I know that the kids reported really enjoying the opportunity to use the ME stations. so that they could hear and experience the musical changes that happened through their brain. And as the residency went on, they were really becoming more articulate about the kinds of things that they could do to change their brain state. So it was a wonderful project, and I'm really grateful to have been a part of it. Thanks.
And I'll just say a couple of things kind of as she's talking. It brings back a lot. Like, they did get really, really good at diaphragmatic breathing, and got where they were leading it rather than Christina leading it, as the whole class was. And she almost always, maybe not open with that, but had that at the beginning of every workshop. So it was impressive to see them go in on that. And then the other thing that she was talking, made me think about, is that because there was so much that they were bringing to it, sometimes, you know, the choices that they were making were like, oh, this is not the choice we would make, so this is good. So an example of that is when they were figuring out which instrument would represent which brainwave. They voted for theta, the dream state, to be represented by percussion, and we were like, what? But then, as we thought about it, like, they're playing like marimbas and, you know, vibraphones and stuff. So like, it definitely makes sense in terms of that tone piece for why they were choosing that. So it was a learning experience for us as well. Okay. So a little bit from kind of what we quantitatively found out. So we had 121 students participating across 2 sections of band and 2 sections of orchestra. The orchestra students did not get the workshops delivered by Christina. They had access to all the materials, and their orchestra teacher was working with them. They went to the ME stations. But it wasn't as rich of experience. And they did not do nearly like the number of worksheets and things that the band students ended up doing as a result. This was IRB exempt. We were working with completely de-identified data. We didn't know anything except which class hour it came from. And the first thing I wanted to share with you was at the very beginning, workshop session number 1, when we're asking them, hey, what techniques are you just doing now without us teaching anything? Sorry, this graph is a little squashy because it was having issues when I imported it into these slides. But what I want to point out is many had experience with breathing as a technique. Exercise as well was a big go-to, writing in the journal, right? So they endorse a lot of things. So they are hearing and getting the message from people about these as ways to help calm and regulate. And then we also have them, like I said, report on what techniques they were using while they were actually at the ME station. What I'll say is even students who reported on their feelings or emotions before and after using, a lot of students didn't complete this part of the form. So I don't know if it was just not like highlighted enough or obvious that they were supposed to endorse some things, because they didn't, like, none was an option, but it wasn't that they were circling none, they just didn't circle anything, so it's hard to make out. As you can see, again, breathing was a big one, either on its own or in combination with other techniques. And followed, you know, there was visualization used a little bit as well, and lots of things in combination. So they were trying these things out pretty rapid fire, just thinking about the amount of time they had on the station as well, but that's okay. We didn't want to control that too much. We kind of wanted to see what they would do. Okay, and then here's how they reported on their feeling states. So we use these Poshmark continuums, and this wasn't, you know, we weren't intending this to be some sort of intervention or anything, but we did take a look at this, and of those feeling states, it was the relaxed and calm that we saw significant changes. So before and after using the headset. But focused, awake, excited, joyful, peaceful, those weren't significantly different changes. We did particularly look down kind of that question you had. We looked at students who reported that they were a little worked up when they first got to the station, specifically that they were a little bit worried or nervous. So they were on the scale endorsing like way toward the worried end or way toward the nervous end. And we wanted to see what they were doing in terms of strategies. And so this was a real subset of the kids. But for these kids, they really focused on breathing much more so than the other kids. So it was really like when they were stressed, they were like, okay, what can I do? Okay, yeah, I know I'm supposed to do some breathing. So that was kind of their go-to strategy. Now, this is the sad slide. Okay, so we were hoping to see a little bit of generalization, right? So that when we asked them about techniques they were using day to day, toward the end of the residency, that we get a little movement on some of the things that we've been working on, like breathing. But as you can see there was some movement, but not statistically significant amount. We have a couple thoughts on that. I mean, one is we maybe just didn't build in generalization the way that we should have. But also, we did try to switch between some of the terminology. Sometimes we called it deep breathing, diaphragmatic breathing, 4-4-8 breathing, where we should have probably just stuck to one term. And also that last day when they were filling this out was that day before the concert where things got a little bit rushed. So they probably didn't have as much time as they didn't have as much time as we would have liked for them to be thoughtful about this. So we're still thinking about this. We're working on an article about this. And of course we have lots of questions, just a pilot to see like, hey, what happens if you do this? Is this even reasonable in a classroom setting? And what would we want to do next? So we're thinking a lot about the workshop dosing, so how much workshop they need, how much time at the station they need, how many sessions at the station they need, and what's really making the difference in terms of big picture. And we've been thinking a lot about modifications for the workshops and for the experiences based on where the technology is going, as well as even just like if it's going to a classroom across different kinds of classrooms. So we were lucky in that we ended up with band directors. Had we ended up with like a personal wellness class, we probably would have taken this in a different direction, or a more technology class, a different direction. Of course, there would still be that social, emotional learning component, but like what was stressed and how it would have looked a little bit different. Of course, generalization. And as Jason mentioned, he's working on software development and thinking a lot about dissemination and making the software more accessible for people, which is why he's moving to some web-based applications.
Yeah, I'm building, I need beta testers. So if anyone's interested in using it themselves or with students, what I'm doing is porting it off the iPad, which it's really hard to send betas out on iPads, to a web-based version for beta testing. So if you're interested, I think we have a QR code, or if you're sick of like filling out forms this weekend, use that old-fashioned paper and pen. So if you want to be a beta tester, I'd love to chat with you.
And we can also send out information on kind of where things go. Hopefully we'll have a published article on this, and we'd be happy to share it with you when we get to that point. So if you want to pass that around,
Sure.
and then the QR codes, I think, one slide away, 2 slides away.
And I'd also be curious just to chat with any of you, if you want to put your name down, and if you're not interested in, or not able to do beta testing, but just want to chat about the challenges that you're experiencing with social emotional learning in the classroom. That's something I'm curious about, because if I better understand your needs, I can better develop some potential solutions. So if you're interested in having a conversation, just jot your name down as well, your email.
And just a quick acknowledgement, so this project was supported by the Molly Tibbetts Memorial Fund and psychiatry as well, gave me a little more time and money as well, so very appreciative for that. As well as Cedar Rapids School District and Harding Middle School. They were a dream to work with. It was very, very easygoing. And then we had some project assistance from some colleagues and helpers as well. So here's that QR code. It's the same, I think, as I wrote down on the physical paper. I'm wondering if there's any other questions that people have today. We have maybe 3 minutes or so. Or if you want to come up and ask us one-on-one, that's fine.
Yeah, I'll be here for the next long after.
Yeah.
You say about how much that headset was that you had on?
New, they were about $250. I found used ones closer to like 100 or a little above 100. I usually buy the used ones from eBay, and hopefully with the hardware partner, the headphone, we can do more like group discounts and discounts for particularly beta testing. So that's my hope.
And it comes with its own program too.
Correct. Yeah, the Muse has its own app, which is a meditation based app, and maybe some heart programs as well, because it now has a heart rate sensor.
If you ever own your own feedback, I do want to do one to some other people. Like piece your because where I work only has some feedback for video games. So it's
Oh, cool.
I was just like maybe you're what you're doing. So that's all.
Yeah, what headset are you
I
looking
have
at?
no idea. I'm a media person. I just think this is technology.
Oh, cool.
I have no information for the best.
I'd love to chat with you. Yeah.
All right, thanks everyone, and come up and chat if you have more questions. Have a good afternoon.
Thank you.